Hi there, I'm Eddie McDonald,
I'm Brittany McDonald, and we're here with AGL Coaching for Good.
where we help you wake up and love Mondays. We are here with one of our team members and longtime favorite coaches, Teresa Gallis. Hi, Teresa.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for being here with us. So we have known you for individually for a long time, collectively even longer. Do you even remember when we all first met?
Brittany, I think I met you maybe in 2011. I was down in Texas for some work and actually stayed in your apartment with you, your 1-bedroom apartment with you and your roommate. So
It was very close.
we got very close very quickly.
We did. We bonded really quick.
That's hilarious. I've heard about that apartment. I didn't realize it was a 3-person apartment for a while. That's crazy.
Sometimes more. We fit lots of people in. I'm not sure how.
I think mattresses on the floor helped.
It did. It did. I remember one time you were working on a project. You were very, very focused, and my roommate and I decided we needed to have a really honest conversation. We're like, hopefully this doesn't make you uncomfortable. You were like, no, I'm really focused. So we finished our conversation, and then we just started saying really absurd things to see if you were listening or how long it would take you to notice. And you were so focused. You have incredible focus. We said the most ridiculous things, and you just were all engaged in your project. It was great.
Yeah, I believe it. My husband has decided that one word that characterizes me is fixate. So I tend to get fixated on projects and have, I don't know if tunnel vision is the right word, but I definitely lose track of everything that's happening and time and everything until I'm done with the project. So it's very much about get done whatever I'm working on.
That I think was what was happening in that moment.
Probably serves you well.
And then you probably met Teresa a year
virtually,
later?
Yeah, virtually. I think the first time we all worked together on something was that missed call procedures document. So for those of you who don't know, we all used to work for a company in Texas, now Lumerit Education. We got our start as life coaches there. And we were working on a procedural document for clients who missed their calls or their sessions. And some of the things we learned from that document have been carried through into AGL Coaching for Good. So fun stuff. But that was, I think, how I met my wife. I also met Teresa. So
very small world.
Fun times. I still I actually saved that document somewhere, either printed it off or have it in Drive.
It has nostalgic meaning.
Yeah, absolutely. So good stuff.
You framed it and you wrote, I love Brittany in the margin.
It's not a bad idea.
There you go. People put it in the office like, what is this?
What is that?
Well, let's tell you.
Yeah.
Funny story. It's funny because the whole world now, it seems like, is going virtual. But we've worked remotely our entire careers, the three of us, or most of it. You've had forays into various different things. So Teresa, we've kind of just gone all over the place here, but why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, how you got into coaching, any other things you've done in your life and professional career. Just tell us about yourself.
Well, I think one thing that characterizes me is something that I resonate with you. I love traveling. So I've lived in 8 different states, more depending on how long you count live. So I've spent several months at a time in different states, so I could add on to that. But as formal mailing addresses, it's been 8 different states, and I've traveled to, I think, 6 different countries so far. And what I used to do is carry my passport in my purse, because I thought if I ever get the option to go overseas, I don't want to have to go home first, because I could always buy, a toothbrush when I get there. I don't really need to have everything. I don't need to go back. So I'm very much into traveling. And there was a point in my life when I would look at my bank account and say, okay, $30. How far could I go on a tank of gas for $30? So I really love traveling. That would be one main thing to know about me. I love adventure, and I love seeing new things and experiencing new things, meeting new people. I love meeting people from other countries and international students. And I've done a lot of we call them supper clubs, but meeting with different international students in our home for supper once a month, going hiking with them, things like that. So I really love just getting to know different people and doing cultural exchange, figuring out how do they do things where you're from? What is your perspective on this? Because I've learned that we have such rich perspectives when we explore other people, what other people think. So it's just such a different view to see how the world looks from someone else's eyes and in a different place. So yeah, I love traveling. I love being outside. I get really depressed when it's rainy or overcast. So I'm so grateful that it's sunny today. I love anywhere where there's sunshine. What else?
300 days of sunshine here in Colorado.
It's a great place to live if you like sun.
I love, yes, and mountains and fresh air. Yes. So I love all of those things. What else did you ask me?
Great place for that though. Excuse me, a pretty great place for that yourself though.
Yes.
So tell us where you're from.
Well, yes. So I've lived in several different places. I'm in North Carolina right now, and I've been here for almost 11 years, which is crazy to me because it's the longest I've lived anywhere in my entire life. So one thing that changed was almost 6 years ago, I got married and I've now had 2 kids. And so that has slowed down the traveling a little bit, but we still like adventure. So we do shorter trips like weekend hiking trips or camping trips. And at some point, we'll probably start doing bigger trips too.
Very cool.
We also both carry our passports. I don't carry it in my purse, obviously, in my wallet though, like a passport wallet. It's that important to me. And yes, it's always like,
you never know.
You never know. You might be walking somewhere and see a $79 flight to Algiers and say, you know what?
Why not? I will say it's never happened yet, but it came very, very close. I was visiting my grandparents in Nebraska at one point, and my dad called me up and said, hey, do you want to go to Germany this weekend? And my first thought was, do I have my passport? And I did. And I was like, yes, everything else is optional. We'll figure it out. He was going on a last minute business trip and called me up. It didn't end up working out. I think he didn't end up going or something. So that was disappointing, but it was so close. And I was like, it's for these moments. This is the moment. I carry my passport with me everywhere I go.
No, we were in London on another trip and saw a $79 flight to Algiers. And if we hadn't had another flight to catch, I think we both probably would have hopped on it.
It's true. You just never know.
Never know.
You have to be prepared. Be prepared for spontaneity.
I love Teresa. I feel like that basically summarizes you in a nutshell. Be prepared for spontaneity. Like that's just I couldn't put it in words, but when you said that, I'm like, if I could sum up Teresa, that would be it.
Like adventure spreadsheets.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yes, I love spreadsheets. My husband and I both love spreadsheets. So we had a spreadsheet for planning our wedding. We have spreadsheets for planning all the different adventures we want to go on. We have spreadsheets for everything because you can organize. I also love organizing. So in my refrigerator, I've got little bins and they're all so organized, and I have oranges in one bin, apples in one bin. It's just so beautiful because I open my refrigerator and often I'll just sit there and say, it's like a rainbow. I love it. And I organize my closet by colors, all the clothes by colors also. So it looks like a rainbow. I just love beauty and I love organization. So I'm always trying to organize things. But something that I do think is a paradox is I do get a little burst of excitement when there is something spontaneous and unplanned. So I'm not sure how that all fits together, but yes, I like the planning and the organization. And I also like when plans change at the last minute.
Fine.
That all resonates. That's cool.
Awesome.
I love how traveling has impacted our coaching careers. And we had a conversation with another friend a few weeks ago on that topic, but we'd be curious to hit it with you. Just how do you think that multicultural or more global perspective that you've had from traveling has impacted your coaching career?
I think it would be recognizing the inherent value of each person and the richness and diversity each person brings in their perspectives, in their different perspectives. It's kind of like the opposite of ethnocentrism. So obviously ethnocentric is just thinking that your culture is all that is the most important thing. It's all you know. It's kind of like if you have just one eye looking at something, you have a different perspective than if both eyes are looking. You get the depth perception when you bring in that second eye. So it's kind of like that. You have the two eyes, the two different perspectives. So you get a much deeper perspective than you would if it was just the single perspective. I don't know if that's confusing.
I know, I love the analogy.
It's beautiful.
Cultural depth perception.
Yeah. How did you get into coaching originally? And because we have a lot of background and I know a little bit of the story, like what kept you in coaching? So what got you there, and why are you still a coach?
I've always loved teaching. When I was really little in my neighborhood, kids would always come over to our house and just stand there at the doorway and wait expectantly for me to tell them what we were going to do that day. So I've always been kind of the ringleader, and they would come over and I would say, all right, today we're playing school. This was usually on Saturdays. So I don't know why they, these were kids who went to public school. I don't know why they thought it'd be fun to come do more school with Teresa. But my mom says that I would set up desks in our garage and give them actual school books and give them assignments. And she said, I think they did more school on Saturdays than they would do during the week because it was all day. They'd get to our house at like 6 or 7 in the morning, and then they'd go home when it was time for supper. So we didn't play school all day, every day, but we did play school frequently. And then I also started, when my mom was teaching my brothers, I had a 2-year-old sister at the time. And my mom said, okay, you need to watch the baby so I can teach the boys for an hour or two. And my sister and I said, instead of just giving the baby toys to play with, we should teach the baby how to read and all this stuff. So we made up our own little phonics curriculum and did all this painstakingly, tracing, hide and seek, find the letter, things like that. And we actually did end up teaching her to read, not when she was 2, but a little bit later. So I've always been trying to teach people something. And when I was after college, I started teaching in some study centers, non-traditional accelerated learning distance study centers. So it's helping students earn their bachelor's degree using some college level assessment tests. So I was teaching accelerated college courses in usually about 2 weeks for the whole semester. And I really enjoyed it. And I had fantastic students who wanted to be there and were very engaging and interactive. So I had so much fun teaching them. I started teaching at a homeschool co-op, and I taught American literature, which is one of my favorite topics. But I was doing all of this kind of unofficial teaching. It was official in terms of I was really doing it, but it was unofficial in terms of I had never been trained to teach. So I thought this was so much fun. I decided to go get my master's degree in teaching so I could become officially trained in how do you teach. And as I got my degree, I felt really bad for everyone I had ever taught because I thought, oh, I've done this all the wrong way. Now it's all focused on student-led learning and really like the flipped classroom. So having students prepare ahead of time and then you spend the classroom time discussing and practicing what you're learning instead of lecturing. And I had been doing more lecturing. So anyway, I learned all of these things. It was fascinating. I loved it. But to help pay my way through grad school, I decided to start coaching. And I had several friends who were coaches. I had started out with the same company as these friends developing curriculum. So I was doing curriculum development, they were coaching, but I needed something that was going to be really flexible for getting me through school. So I said, okay, I'll just start coaching. So I was doing it just as a job to help fund my way through my real career, which was teaching. And then when I started student teaching, I was student teaching all day, and then I was coaching for several hours in the evening, and I had to do all of my assignments on Saturdays because that was the only day I had to work on it because I didn't have any time during the day or night. And so I was doing all of this stuff, and the classroom where I was student teaching was a very different experience from my other experiences with teaching. And these kids did not want to be here. And it was in the inner city. It was really rough. And just with the pure culture that the kids had, they didn't prize learning and they didn't want to be there. And so they were literally throwing desks at each other. And, it wasn't a fun classroom teaching experience. And so then I'd come home, I would have left at like 6 in the morning, gone through this all day, get home at 4:30, 5 p.m. And then I still had 5 or 6 coaching calls. And so I'd come home just be completely exhausted and not have any time to even grab supper before I started my first call. And during the first call, I looked down and realized I was standing on my chair. I was so excited. I was like, oh, I love this so much because the coaching clients were all people who wanted to be there and they were excited about learning and they had this growth mindset and they were just telling me all these things that they were up to. It was so, so exciting. And so even though I was in school to become a teacher, as I was coaching, I realized I actually love coaching so much more. I still love the teaching part, but I like teaching people who are excited about being there, people who are excited to learn. So when I graduated, I just continued coaching and I started coaching full time. And then now I have a cool combination of that I teach coach training classes. So I feel like it's the best of all worlds because it's combining the teaching and the coaching, and it's with people who actually want to be there. And thankfully, no one has thrown a desk at me in coach training. So that's a relief.
Be impressed if they can throw it through the computer screen.
Exactly. So I'm a little protected. It's nice.
I did see, I don't know if you saw it, there's a viral video on Facebook. It's like stunt workers at home. But it's a compilation of stunt performers in Hollywood who don't have any jobs. So they do this, like one guy headbangs the computer and the next guy like jumps back and they're all fighting each other through the computer screen. It's really well done. Anyway, private trail.
I love hearing your energy when you talked about coming home from like 10-11 hour days at school and being so excited to coach. Like that's when you know you have found the right thing, when you can do it with that level of enthusiasm when you're already exhausted and tired and worn out. So what was that like for you, just being in school yourself, teaching school, and then coming home to coach? Like what was that process like? What were you learning during that season, I guess?
I have always been very structured and organized, and I think that's what got me through it because I had a very tight timeline, and I said, I have to get these things done during this time because it's the only time available. So no time for, even delaying anything. So I think what I was learning was I have to be so structured, but then one thing I learned on the outset of that was I have to do what energizes me also, because I can put a lot of work into something, but then if it's draining me, it's hard to just keep going. So yeah, I think focusing on what energizes me, and then also focusing on self-care, which I really was not doing while I was in the midst of all that. And so when I finally when I finished grad school, I took some time. Actually, I'm lying. I'll tell you what really happened. But in my head, I was going to take some time to recover because I was like, okay, I'm worn out. I don't think I could have gone one more week like that. It was just so much to juggle all at once. So as grad school was winding down, I was looking forward to unwinding and recharging. And instead, I started dating, which was exciting. And then my husband is very intentional and strategic, and we love spreadsheets, as I said. Anyway, and so we ended up getting engaged 6 months after we started dating, and then we planned our wedding, and we got married like 10.5 weeks later. So it has been nonstop for years and years and years, but I'm still really working on the self-care part. And now I'm really working on trying to figure out how do I pause and recharge throughout the day in the midst of the chaos, because real life is messy and we're not going to have this structured, beautiful time to say, now there are no responsibilities, no one's demanding anything, now you can just sit here and meditate. It's important to carve out time to do these things, but also to realize that stuff comes up and life is very messy and unpredictable.
That's cool. I am really curious. So we've asked every person who's interviewed so far about their definition of coaching. And I think that's been my favorite part of all these interviews, is just hearing the perspectives on what we all love and do. So I would love to hear your definition of coaching. What is coaching to you?
To set the stage, life is crazy and we all have so much we're juggling. It's hard to process through what we want or where we want to go or what we want the outcome to be. So to me, coaching is providing that space for someone to take a breath. It's kind of like if you're on a marathon, running a marathon, it's providing the space for you to step out for a minute, catch your breath, drink some water, look around, orient yourself, and then get back into the race. So to me, coaching is providing space for someone to process through who they are and what they want and what mindsets and behaviors they need to get there. And then giving them the accountability and the encouragement to be able to jump right back into the race.
That's really cool.
I love that metaphor. Mm-hmm. And what makes me curious about that is you, just before you were talking about self-care and figuring out kind of what it looks like for you to step out of the race, even if it's just for a minute in the middle of the crazy. So how do you help allow yourself the space to do that? Or how are you working to give yourself the space to do that, as you're also helping others do the same?
That's really hard because my Enneagram number is a perfect tie between a 2 and a 1, so helper and perfectionist. And what primarily motivates me is helping others. I want them to see that aha moment, that breakthrough. So I'm very focused on helping others, and I'm trying to learn how to also help myself and to treat myself like how I would treat someone else. So one thing that I'm trying to do is when I start to notice that I'm getting overwhelmed, then I just take a deep breath. And especially if I can look somewhere else. So take a deep breath and look out the window, or take a deep breath and count to 10, or take a deep breath and notice how the sun looks on the wall. Anything I can do to just pause whatever is flooding me at that moment, that gives me the perspective to be able to step back, take that deep breath, and then jump back in and say, it's okay. It's going to be okay. This is not as bad as it could be.
That's really cool. I think with everyone being mostly at home, every story looks different, right? So some people are like, I have all this time on my hands because I'm furloughed, or other people are like, I have a million things more to do because I'm working at home along with my husband, along with my kids doing school, and so life just got exponentially crazy.
And my 3 dogs and my cat.
Right.
Right. Or I work outside the house in an essential job, and it's even crazier than it was because there's just more complications and fewer people doing their work.
Yeah. So I think there's a range of what people are experiencing, but I think what you're talking about is very often the human experience of just that constant, it feels like constant running, constantly going towards something, even if we don't always know what we're going towards. So if you were just to, from your experience for yourself and working with clients, offer a perspective or a bit of inspiration to people who find themselves kind of caught up in just running and not able to stop and take a breath, what would you want to say to those people?
It sounds cliche, but you can't pour out of an empty vessel. You know, we have to carve out time to pour into ourselves if we're going to continue pouring into everyone else. I saw a little fountain online. I have not gotten it because it had bad reviews, but I saw this little fountain that had a pitcher pouring into a pot, which was pouring into another pot. So it was 3 levels. And I took a screenshot of it, and I have that saved because I like the mental picture of we need to have someone pouring into us. And that includes what do we need to do to recharge? So whether that's taking a minute to just take a deep breath, or to go stand outside for 1 minute, or I don't know, sometimes you can touch your fingertips, anything to break the sensation of whatever is overwhelming us. So it's very important for us to be pouring into ourselves and collecting a team of people who will pour into us so we can continue pouring into each other and into everyone in our sphere of influence. There are always expectations and demands. So we have to make sure we've got the armor we need to be able to continue going out into that battle every day.
And I love just a reminder of really mindfulness, which we do talk a lot about in coaching. It's just noticing things around you, feeling sensations, just whatever takes you out of the craziness and the chaos of the moment to help you be present with yourself so you can sort of re-enter the fray a little bit recharged, hopefully.
That's cool. This conversation reminds me of flow. So there's a definition of flow where you've got a graph of low to high challenge and low to high skill, essentially. So high skill, high challenge is flow. Low skill, low challenge, apathy. And I think in our culture, we spend a lot of time high challenge, mid skill. So between anxiety and arousal, it's like frenetic overdrive. I think a term you used a lot.
Yeah.
It's a rough place to be. And coaching, I think the kind of coaching we're talking about really helps people get out of that frenetic overdrive and into flow, which is cool. It's there's some great TED Talks on it. I'm going to butcher his name. Mihaly.
Do you know how to say it?
I don't know how to say it. I always just copy and paste it in the chat when I'm telling people, like, look up this guy's name or look up this guy's book or TED Talk.
Csikszentmihalyi. If you look up Flow TED Talk, and you'll see what looks like an Eastern Bloc name following Flow. That looks something along the lines of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi.
Good job.
Yeah, something along those lines. I need to figure out how it's pronounced and memorize it because I love his work, and I can't pronounce his name. But yeah, providing the opportunity for flow for our clients is a lot of fun because no one wants to live between anxiety and arousal their entire life. Kind of just heightened anxiety. That sounds terrible. But flow's awesome. So kind of stepping out. I love the word reorienting to life that you use with the race analogy.
I think a lot of coaching is creating that perspective because I just feel like sometimes I can get fixated on a project and I don't even realize what's going on. I lose track of time and I need something to snap me out of that. Or to another analogy would be, if you're spinning your wheels and you're caught in the mud and your car is just sinking lower and lower, you're not going anywhere. You're putting a lot of effort in, but you're not going anywhere. And so coaching provides the space and the perspective for you to step back, whether it's putting a board under the wheels or whatever, step back and get the extra traction you need to figure out, what am I doing? What's going on?
I love that.
Traction.
Well,
a whole lot better than spinning your tires.
It is a whole lot better than spinning your tires. So we are recording this on a Friday. It feels like winding down rather than ramping up, but it's been really, really great to just connect with you, Teresa, hear kind of you recap and share your story and just the passion you have for helping people really not get stuck in the mud, to be able to find a way to move forward. It's really beautiful. So is there anything else you'd like to say is about coaching or life, or just kind of where we're all at in the world as we wrap up?
I think for me as a recovering perfectionist, I'm also learning to give grace that, going back to the structured spontaneity, give grace for when things are spontaneous, because again, life is messy. So things are not going to go the way we're planning. And the things that we fear the most usually will not happen. It will be something else or something worse. It's never what we're planning. It just seems like it's so infrequently what we're planning, no matter how skilled we are in planning or how much we love organization. Life is messy. So I'm learning to give myself grace. And that would be what I would say to everyone else is just take a deep breath and realize it will be okay. It will be okay. It's going to be different, but it will be okay.
Yeah. A story came to mind, just thinking about being stuck in the mud and how coaching is so important. So one day, I was in South Carolina with my younger brother, and I had, kind of like your morning, Teresa, I had several clients back to back cancel on me, and also had a lunch break. So I had like 3.5 hours to play with. And I usually took Josh, my brother, out for lunch on Wednesdays. I was like, hey, let's go out for lunch and we'll go off-roading. Hop in the 4Runner and we'll just go find a trail somewhere and have fun. He was like, cool. So it just rained that weekend. And we went off-roading and we were crossing lots of mud puddles and doing pretty well. And we got to the last one. It was this big mud puddle. And he was like, no, Ed, no. And I was like, we got this. And we got through it. It was great. I was like, yes. We got to the end of the trail, turned around, and came back. And we had that big mud puddle to cross again. So I got stuck in that big mud puddle. It was just one corner was really sludgy, and I didn't take it quite the same way the second time. And I mean, I was up to the wheel wells in muck. Middle of nowhere, end of this trail with a dozen other mud puddles between me and the road. So I hopped out and I'm up to my knees in water, and Josh hopped in the driver's seat. He's like, all right, Josh, like when I say go, I want you to gently tap the skinny pedal. Josh hadn't driven a car. He was like, gently tap it. So I'm shoving logs under the tires and digging out the mud and pushing. I said, all right, Josh. And he floored it. And I got covered in muddy water. He was laughing his head off. But I think how it applies to coaching is we needed something or someone not stuck in the same mud puddle we were in to help us get out. And frequently in life, just the way our circles work, whatever we're going through, our friends and family and peers are also kind of going through, like, because we're inherently connected to them socially, we're all in the same mud puddles. Whatever I'm challenged with, they are also challenged with. It might be different problems in different spheres, but the beauty of a coach is they're that tow truck that comes bouncing down the road through the mud puddles and gets to you and says, all right, I'm going to stay out of the mud puddle and hook a cable to your bumper, and I'm going to help pull you out of the mud. And then we're going to go down this road together. That's kind of how coaching feels sometimes. It's being there, not in the mud, to help somebody else get out. So, fun memory. Thank you for that. It's been years, but it came back to mind.
And it's not because, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's not because we have never been in the mud, it's just at this moment we have a different perspective, so we can see things that maybe the person stuck in the mud can't see at that moment.
Yeah.
So then we can ask, hey, what would happen if you stuck the chain over here? Or what would happen if you turned the steering wheel that way?
Absolutely. Even that tow truck had to bounce down through all the puddles before me to get to where I was. He was like, it's a good thing I own this company because my guys wouldn't have taken this truck down this road.
You got lucky.
Yeah, I got lucky. If any of you listening would like to work with Teresa, I have been a client of hers, and I can say her coaching is fantastic. So if anyone would like to work with Teresa, let us know. She's an amazing coach, and holds a professional coaching credential with the ICF. So.
And you're working towards your master coach credential.
I am, yes.
Exciting.
So if you're excited about laughing in the mud, then come on.
Great. Yep.
Love it.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Teresa. It's been really good to chat and connect and hear a little bit more of your story.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, it was our pleasure. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.